New York is trying to speed run the California experience by by electing an openly socialist, an openly democratic socialist, and probably closeted communist in Zohran Mamdani. And not everyone from the New York State area is happy about it. Not everyone from the New York City area is happy about it. And someone is speaking out. That someone is aptly named after money, 50 Cent. Now, who would imagine that it would take a man named after money to come after a communist? But in an article titled 50 Cent offers to pay New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani $258,000 to get lost after socialist name drop Queens rapper, from New York Post by Natalie O'Neill, we get the following. Go Shawty to some other state. 50 Cent said he'll pay a pretty penny to get rid of Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani and his tax the rich plan after the Big Apple mayoral hopeful name-dropped the Queens rapper on a popular podcast. Where did he come from? Whose friend is this? I'm not feeling this plan. No, I will give him $258,750 and a first-class one-way ticket away from New York, 50 Cent wrote on Instagram Wednesday. The 49-year-old hip-hop star, whose real name is Curtis James Jackson III, was firing back at comments Mamdani made about raising taxes while appearing on The Breakfast Club earlier this month. We're talking about corporations that are making millions of dollars, not in revenue, but in profit. Why do you get to say how much it is okay for a corporation to make? Why do you get to be the arbiter of that truth? Why do you get to decide where the cap is on someone else taking the risk? A business is a risk-filled proposition. If people decide they do not want your product, all of a sudden you have lost all of the money that you have invested in that business. But someone like Zohran Mamdani gets to come along and say that's enough of the money for you. Mamdani said during the June 11th interview about his plan to hike taxes on businesses and the wealthy. Why do you get to say how much money someone has? This is one of the things that drives me absolutely nuts about the left attacking Elon Musk. Look, I'll never have the money that Elon Musk has, but it is something to aspire to. You get to do that if you are worth that to the system. Elon took all the risk in those businesses. Elon, several times along the way, could have been flat broke had Tesla and SpaceX gone belly up, and a few years back, both of them were on that precipice. He succeeded. And now these people are trying to tell him how much money he gets to have. Absolutely mind-blowing. Communism is not. So here's one thing that I want to talk about a little bit, because people that I have this argument with from time to time don't seem to understand it. I will make the point that communism is slavery. And they'll say, no, it's not. Communism is not slavery. I say, well, it's closer than not. Why? Well, what do you want to do with your day? Well, I would like to write poetry. I'm sorry, comrade, we have plenty of poets, but these rocks need to be broken. Don't you want to break the rocks? You want to break the rocks, don't you? So it's not to each according to his needs, from each according to his capabilities. It is to each according to what we have, and from each according to, hey man, we got to have this done. You have that. You will notice this in your workplace, right? Workplaces, in essence, many times become mini communist farms, right? Someone is willing to do the work. Most people are not. That person often gets shoved off on the work. We have on the back end of this a paycheck. That is the capitalist part of things. But really, most people who are willing to step up and do something are willing to step up and do something because it is their personality, not because of the money incentive on the back end. Those people get screwed into working extra shifts. Those people get screwed into doing the bad part of whatever job they are working. It's not about the money, it's about something has to be done. Well, guess what? When that is on a societal scale, people get turned out really, really quickly. And the second is taxing the top 1% of New Yorkers. Why 1%? Why not a 1/4%? Why not 1.5%? You're using 1% because it's something easy to say, Zohran. We're talking about people who make $1 million a year or more, taxing them by a flat 2% tax increase. You've made enough money. I want more of that. He said on the nationally syndicated morning radio show and podcast, I know if 50 Cent is listening, he's not going to be happy about this. He tends to not like this tax policy, but I want to be very clear this is about $20,000 a year, Mamdani quipped. No, it's not about $20,000 a year. It's about somebody else's $20,000 per year. You want someone else's $20,000 a year because you want to do with it what your pet projects are. You want to take that money and spend it on your pet projects. That's it. But after the segment, and by the way, he wants to run a Schnucks, he wants to run a Hy-Vee, he wants to run a Price Chopper, a grocery store. That's his big idea. We'll have government grocery stores. Straight up communism. Straight up communism. And that's why everyone that lives in New York and has money is terrified right now, because these things don't work. But after the segment aired, the Grammy-winning indie club rapper, whose net worth is estimated at close to $1 billion, didn't exactly feel like sipping bub with Mamdani in the VIP section. Now, why is 50 Cent worth nearly $1 billion? Well, first off, because, and here's the thing, a lot of people don't know this about 50 Cent, he wasn't always a rapper. He realized that you could make money on it and decided, hey, I'm going to do that. And he became really good at it. You can go back, you can look it up. That's what happened. 50 Cent, before he got into rap, when he was Curtis Jackson, was into way worse things than microphones and speakers. And he decided rap's a pretty good way to make money. And then, when he was rapping, he decided the next best thing to do was going to be to sell water. He, I believe, bought a small company known as Vitamin Water, built it up, and sold it to Coca-Cola. It was either Coca-Cola or Pepsi. I can't remember which one. That is where he got a lot of his money. This is an entrepreneur. This is an artist. This is a man who knows what making money means, unlike Zohran Mamdani. I'm telling President Trump what he said too, 50 wrote in a scathing post along with the thinking emoji. During the interview, Mamdani, who defeated former Governor Andrew Cuomo in a Democratic mayoral primary election upset Tuesday, also outlined his goals to raise money for better public transit, to uplift small businesses, and to Trump-proof the city. What does that even mean? What does Trump-proof the city mean, Zohran Mamdani? I'm willing to bet there's no actual explanation. I'm willing to bet that all this is a way to sloganeer your way into someone else's conversation so that these mindless drones that go around talking about how great socialism and communism are have something, some little phrase like Trump proof that they can spit out there. No one knows what it means, and they'll never have to defend it. That's all that is. Trump-proof the city. Trump-proof. What are you going to put? Blow dryers everywhere? Trump-proof the city. What a stupid thing to say. A rep for Mamdani didn't immediately return a request for comment Thursday. Apparently, Curtis Jackson has since deleted said Instagram post. Still, I'm sure he meant it. Now, how dumb is Zohran Mamdani? How illegitimate are his claims? How ridiculous are the things he's trying to do? How baseless, mindless is his campaign? Well, let me show you. Because he's just going ahead and saying the quiet part out loud. In an article titled Socialist New York Mayor Would Raise Taxes on White Neighborhoods from the Telegraph by Cameron Henderson, Zohran Mamdani has pledged to raise taxes on whiter neighborhoods if he becomes New York mayor. The self-described socialist earlier this week beat Andrew Cuomo, the former New York governor, in the Democratic primary, earning the party's nomination for November's mayoral election. Following his win on Tuesday, fresh details of Mr. Mamdani's radical agenda have emerged, including a plan to shift the tax burden, quote, to, quote, richer, whiter neighborhoods, end quote. I believe the actual quote from his proposal says this: shift tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods, just targeting a neighborhood because it is, quote, whiter. Now, I said earlier that New York was trying to speed run the California experience. Well, this might sound like I'm being facetious because they're both fairly liberal, and in fact, New York has been losing more people since COVID even than California, which seems to be absolutely mind-blowing. I guess there are reasons to stay in California, i.e. the weather. There does not seem to be any reasons any longer to stay in New York. How is that culture of theft? But one of the things that I looked into is that, so New York, from 2020 to 2023, lost 533,000 people, left the city. 533,000 people. Now, the average GDP per capita in New York City is a massive $92,341. And here's the thing. I guarantee you the GDP represented disproportionately in these people leaving is higher than that. Why? Because people earning less than that don't have the means necessary to move. They don't have anywhere to go. The people who are leaving are people who probably have businesses and are deciding, I can't do this anymore. So, 533,000 people leaving with an average income or average GDP, that's not income, of $92,341 means that in those 4 years, New York lost $49,217,753,000 of GDP per year. $49 billion of GDP lost per year. Now, that's not tax revenue, right? So it's a little bit different how much less the state itself is making, but the compounding effects of losing people and that GDP going out the door are incredible, because it's not just about the tax revenue. It's about the velocity of money. It's about the culture in a place. It's about so this is a sort of a silly example, right? But you're a small town, you have one bricklayer, that bricklayer gets fed up and moves to Wyoming. You have no bricklayers. You cannot underestimate the amount of things like that in a city. It sounds silly. I know. It sounds ridiculous when you're talking about a place like New York that has millions of bricklayers. It's not about bricklayers, right? Your workplace, there is a guy that does something fairly important every week. If he walks out, someone can relearn how to do that part of the job, but it's going to take time. It's not going to be as efficient early. Maybe the person learning it's just not as good at it as the guy that left. There are halo effects to this. This is not happening here and there. This happened to New York to the tune of 533,000 people. Now, I said speed running the California experience. Here's the thing. New York does not have the outrageous catastrophes that California does. There's no wildfires really in New York. So you don't have to budget for that. Wildfires, difficult for which to budget. So when a place like LA has wildfires to the tune that they did, followed by all of a sudden riots about X, Y, and Z, there's almost no recovering. New York doesn't have the wildfire problem. The biggest thing I think they have is snow removal, right? Very expensive, I'm sure, for a place like New York, but it's something for which you can budget. You can't budget for losing 533,000 people. You can't budget for the guy who runs the grocery store shutting up shop because all of a sudden he knows Zohran is being elected and he just decides to leave. You can't budget for those types of things. You can't budget for a politician openly negative towards, and that's putting it lightly, the police force. How many officers suddenly retire? Because they can. You can't say anything about it. Where are you going to get the new ones? All of these things just pile up into a cluster of, we didn't see this coming, when, by the way, you definitely should have seen it coming. So that's what I have for this video. If you like or appreciate this sort of thing, hitting a like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this with other people. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, this is the kind of thing that I do on the channel. So hit the subscribe button because I would love to have you back for the next one.